Hello. Hi. I introduce myself. I'm Yih Chii Hwang. I'm a principal scientist at DNAnexus. I'm trained as a bioinformatician, and this is my first time joining Nextflow Summit and joining the community. And so far, I've been enjoying all the great talks and the community, and I feel very welcome. And also, I would like to thank for the organizers for organizing this great event and the opportunity to give a talk here. So I'll talk to you about bringing GXP compliance to Nextflow workflows. So this is the outline for today. I'll first do an overview of DNAnexus. Then I'll talk about challenges of implementing scalable pipelines in regulated environments. Lastly, I'll talk about DNAnexus' approach to Nextflow and GXP. So to do an overview of DNAnexus, I thought it was easiest to just talk about what we do. And the most straightforward way is to talk to you about our users, how they use DNAnexus. So we service 4 major segments: governments, academic medical centers, clinical diagnostics, and pharmas. And here I show 3 major use cases. First is UK Biobank. We serve the platform for UK Biobank research analysis that enables UK Biobank to share 15 petabytes of healthcare data, including genetics and phenotypics data, and among thousands of researchers around the globe. And the researchers are allowed to do scalable analysis. Say UK Biobank has 500,000 samples, so you can scale to 500,000 samples for your processes. The second I wanted to talk about is Precision FDA. So it is a platform for the FDA of the United States. They chose DNAnexus as the platform to provide collaborative environment for researchers, entities, companies to all come together and collaboratively work on multi-omics precision medicine research at scale. And lastly, I wanted to talk about City of Hope. As one of the biggest hospitals for cancers, they chose DNAnexus to accelerate their R&D and clinical practice. So in the next slide, I wanted to summarize why these users choose DNAnexus. The major take-home message for today, for you, is I want to persuade you and let you know that we do all the heavy lifting on the right that we list here and beyond. So you don't need to worry about all these regulatory things. You just focus on science and probably also pipeline developments using Nextflow. So on the right, I list some of the highlights of the features of DNAnexus. First, our security and compliance is top-notch. And in the next couple of slides, I'll talk more about them. And secondly, we provide a single ecosystem, meaning that it's the same ecosystem for R&D, pre-production, and production. And it's very straightforward to bring in your pipelines and data from other ecosystems into DNAnexus. It's very straightforward to bring your pipelines from HPC to DNAnexus or other cloud providers to DNAnexus. And for the rest, I won't have time to talk more detail today, but we're a cloud platform. Everything is super scalable. And in most cases, it is much cheaper to do analysis and faster on DNAnexus. We also have services team that can hold your hands, work with you step by step while you're onboarding to the platform. So let's talk about what is GXP. GXP stands for Good Something Practice. So on the left, I have G stands for good, P stands for practice, and X is actually a variable. You can put in clinical, manufacturing, laboratory, what have you, and so on and so forth. So if you are doing manufacturing drugs or clinical trials, you need to provide qualification documents to sustain the regulatory process that is needed for these use cases. GXP guidelines is monitored and required by different administrative in different countries, but the guidelines are global, and the major focus is traceability, accountability, and data integrity. So in the next slide, I will show you DNAnexus solution of GXP. We are leading with security and compliance. Here I show you, internally we have a nickname for this as a layered cake for security. So let me walk you through what is in this cake. On the top, we listed all the certificates we have on the platform. For example, we are sitting on FedRAMP moderate, meaning that you can directly bring in your PHI data, EHR data on the platform and start doing analysis. You don't need to worry about the security and compliance because we already managed that. In the middle layer, I show you more detail of the features of the DNAnexus platform infrastructure. Again, I won't have time to walk you through all the details. I would love to, but today I wanted to highlight some of them that is essential and critical for being GXP compliant. First and foremost is provenance tracking. Today in the morning, in the keynote talk, Rob talked a lot about data provenance. Provenance tracking is enabled in DNAnexus. Every object, data are immutable and have a unique ID. Everything is tracked. The tools are versioned. So it's a given on the platform that input, output, metadata, who did what, when, what API calls is done, everything recorded and provided on the platform. So I also kind of briefly talk about audit trails that requires all the logs being preserved. And also we provide computer system validation. So throughout this entire stack, we validated all the steps that is done on the platform. We work on AWS and/or Microsoft Azure. So long story short, what this means is all you need to do as a user is to provide your data, your processes, your tools, your pipelines, your Nextflow pipelines, throw it over the fence into DNAnexus, and the high level of security and compliance is yours to use. Taking a look from another aspect, from a user perspective, our users recognizes it is a lot of work on the left, as an example, to build an infrastructure for compute, storage, permission control, security and compliance by themselves. We abstracted away all these complexity. As on the right, I show a list of 7 different projects on DNAnexus. So each project is a governance unit. You can see maybe towards the right, the different access level. As a user, I have different access level to different projects. Each project can sit on a specific cloud provider, a specific region. And if you're an administrator, you can control who have access to your data, who can do what within the project, who can export data, who cannot, who can copy the data out, who can share the data forward and beyond. So let's talk about what happened when you bring Nextflow on DNAnexus. Here on the right, I list some major features when you bring Nextflow on DNAnexus. Again, you immediately get GXP compliance for your analysis. You have the security and other compliance. Everything, input, output, and the pipeline are automatically tracked on the platform. And it's very fast to implement and develop your Nextflow pipeline on DNAnexus. Everything is scalable and robust, and we also provide an elegant user interface. So for the rest of my talk, I wanted to show you a semi-live, not real live demo on bringing Nextflow pipeline to DNAnexus. So what I will show you is I will bring the NF-core RNA-seq pipeline imported into DNAnexus, and I'll show you how the import happens and also how to start doing analysis, see the progress of the analysis, and also see the results of an NF-core pipeline. So I don't think I have the nerve like Harshil and Paolo today to do the live demo. I may or may not have the nerve, but I don't want to risk for delaying the great dinner tonight for those who are here. So I want to time box, and this is a recorded video. So I'm in DNAnexus project. I select add and import a pipeline. I put in the URL pointing to the NF-core RNA-seq pipeline. I name this pipeline as RNA-seq. There's other parameters I can set, for example, the versions of the pipeline, or if this is a private repository, I can provide credentials. I select to do nothing, use the default, which points to the latest, and I click import. Now there's a job that started on the platform importing this Nextflow pipeline to the platform. You can see the progress of the import, and fast forward, this pipeline is imported. It takes something like 2 minutes. Then I can click on the output, which is the pipeline that's imported on DNAnexus. It brings me to this view. Click into the pipeline, and it'll show me the interface of starting an analysis with this pipeline. So on the left, it shows the black box, which is the NF-core RNA-seq pipeline. There's some placeholder input parameters, but the key is all the inputs of NF-core RNA-seq pipeline is exposed. You can provide data on DNAnexus to start the analysis. So for today, for simplicity, I will provide only the required input, which is outdir. I name outdir as RNA-seq_outdir. And for providing data, I'll use the test data provided on NF-core. So I'll use the profile configuration and point to test and use Docker as the container. Now we can start analysis. So the system brings us back to the monitor tab and seeing this job with the input we provided. Again, these are all recorded in the system and waiting for an instance to start this analysis. So in the next slide, I show you a progress of this NF-core pipeline being analyzed. So on the top, there are these green bars, meaning these processes are being completed. In the bottom, there are some blue bars, meaning that these processes are happening and being processed. So this slide, I'm showing you that once this job is finished, you see all the details of all the processes that's being done. And let's take a look at the multi-QC report. So the interface is very sleek. You can directly see the visualization on the platform. I click on multi-QC. And I know that there's a lot of NF-core pipeline developers in the audience and users in the audience. I hope this multi-QC report looks right to you. So to prove that it works nicely on the DNAnexus platform. So with that, let me bring back this slide. Again, the take-home message is the security and compliance are being managed by DNAnexus. We do the heavy lifting of all these required. For GXP, for example, usually you need to provide IQ, OQ, like IQ means installation qualification document, and OQ means operation qualification documents. And for the pipeline or tools, you need to provide performance qualification documents. DNAnexus has all these recorded and ready for you when you need to provide these for your administrative. So we did all the heavy lifting, and so that you can focus on just the science. Don't need to worry about all the things on the right. With that, I wanted to end by thanks all my colleagues who worked really hard to make this happen. And also, I would like to special thanks Paulo from Secure Labs for all the discussions and support. With that, I would like to take questions.
Thank you for a great talk. It's really nice. I'm actually the author of Multi-QC as well, and I can confirm it looked great. So, we'll move pretty quickly because we're running over a little bit, but I've just got one question for you, if that's okay. Bruno asks, could you elaborate how you've implemented the input-output provenance tracking and what level of detail is captured?
Yeah, so for the input-output tracking, from a user perspective, all the data provided, like file objects provided on DNAnexus, they are immutable. So they are locked down and assigned with a unique ID. And the metadata on who provided this data onto the platform by what means when are all recorded and also immutable. And there are links between what tools take what input, generate what output. Everything is recorded in our system. So I hope that answers the question, like how exactly we make this work.
Thank you.
Thank you.